Coming up, why you should and maybe shouldn't upgrade your amateur radio license. Hi, I'm Michael, KB9VBR, your host for Ham Radio Q&A. Thanks for joining me on these little amateur radio adventures. Well, congratulations. You just passed your amateur radio technician license exam. I bet when you heard that news, the volunteer examiners also followed it up with the question, would you now like to take the general license exam? You were probably thinking to yourself, boy, I'm pretty mentally exhausted from taking that first one. Do I really want to try it again? I never studied for the general exam. Well, should you take that test? We'll talk about that in a second. But first, just a little story. So back in 1999, when I first took the exams to get my amateur radio license, I fully went into the examination session wanting my Technician Plus license. So, I studied for the novice exam, I studied for the tech exam, I studied 5 words per minute code, and I felt pretty comfortable in all that. And sure enough, I was able to pass all 3 of those tests. And the examiner asked, well, would you like to take the general exam at this time? I said, I drove 2 hours to get to the testing session, and I said, sure, why not? Back in those days, I think if you were able to pass the novice and the technician, you had a pretty good chance of passing that general exam. The big hardship was to get up to that 13 word per minute of code. So I was able to squeak by and pass that general license written test, but didn't go on after that with the code test. Unfortunately, about 6 months later, the FCC restructured the license classes and dropped that 13 words per minute code requirement, and I was able to easily upgrade to the general license. With that little story in mind, why should you upgrade to your amateur radio license? Well, number one, upgrading opens you up to new frequencies and privileges on the HF bands. This is probably the most obvious response. With the elimination of all Morse code testing requirements, today's technician license does give you the same frequency privileges that the old novice license had. That is voice on 10 meters and also code on 15, 40, and 80 meters. So upgrading to general gives you all that voice and data digital access to the HF bands, opening you up to a greater worldwide level of communication. Number 2, upgrading opens up your understanding of the amateur radio arts and sciences. The technician exam is full of the basic fundamentals of amateur radio. That is, rules, regulations, operating procedures, and basic electronics. The general and the extra exams, for that matter, delve more into the operational modes, frequencies, and propagations that you're going to experience as a general class or higher amateur radio operator. The tests, all they do is lay out a framework, and then operation and practice on the bands is what gives you that understanding. So your growth in the art and science of amateur radio relies on upgrading to the next license class level. And the third reason, upgrading makes you a more valuable member of a team. If you're a part of an emergency communications group, upgrading your general license will give you the skills and capabilities, enhancing your utility, and making you a more valuable member of the group. Now, granted, most EMCOM groups use VHF and UHF communications, but they also rely on HF communications for regional and larger communications. Plus, being involved in emergency communications is all about training and practice. So why wouldn't you want to advance your own personal knowledge in radio communications by upgrading your license? And now for the bonus reason. You already passed the technician exam. In the same seating, you can take the general exam absolutely free of charge. Why wouldn't you try it? As a volunteer examiner, I've seen 30 to 40% of examinees pass their general written test in the same seating as they did with their tech test. Even if you don't pass, it gives you a taste of what's to come in that general license exam. And now for the reason why you shouldn't upgrade your amateur radio license. And that is because I told you to. Don't do it for me or do it for anybody else. Do it for yourself. If you're comfortable with a particular license class, there's no reason why you need to upgrade. And so don't feel that pressure. Well, there you have it. Do you have any other reasons why upgrading your license is a good thing? Leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. I'll work them into a future video on why you should upgrade to your extra license class. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. That's how you get notified when new videos are released. And also check out all of my videos and articles on my blog at www.jpol-antenna.com. With that, I'm Michael, KB9VBR. Thanks for watching. Have a great day in 73.